Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the co-hosts of Jumping Bomb Audio, the #1 show all about the world of Joshi Pro Wrestling. Episodes drop every other Monday, where we discuss the biggest Joshi news, review shows, and preview the hottest upcoming Joshi action.
So whether you're a new fan or an old fan, we've got something here for you at Jumping Bomb Audio.
Check us out on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network.
This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A-game. Made no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This is an A-game, better bring your A-game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A-game. Made no rain.
Hey, now it's the Mike and JD show, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert. And the prodigal son has returned. JD and I have not been together on a podcast in almost a month. It's been 3 weeks since we've done a podcast together. But JD, by God, Oliva is back. How you doing, JD?
It's been a long couple of weeks, man. Burning the candle at both ends. Kids wrestling tournament again today. Long days. I feel like I'm the worst wrestling podcaster around. I really do. Like, I feel like my dog is trying to pull my computer off the table right now because he's being troublemaker. Get out of there, Astro.
Yeah.
Like, get your fat. What? God damn it, Astro. Sorry.
Astro's a baby face. The more he annoys you, I think that people love it. So
I know everyone loves to see me uncomfortable. So like him and my wife, the people and my wife both love that. So like I said, I feel like I'm like the worst wrestling podcaster around, especially like one who's like serious and like actually makes money doing these things. Because I don't watch shit, man. Like I keep trying to watch Dynamite and it's bad, right? And so I don't check out Collision and the Royal Rumbles yesterday, and I couldn't care less. And I read like I'm barely on Twitter, which by the way, everyone should barely be on Twitter, let alone paying for Twitter, like some people I know.
Wait, I got a reason behind that, but continue, sir. Continue.
No, I just like I said, I feel like just like the worst wrestling podcaster in the world because I'm so checked out. I'm getting to the point where I'm feeling like I felt when we bailed on Brace for Impact as the main show. Like, and it's not, I don't feel good about this. Like, I don't like not liking my hobby, you know, it bugs me. And like, I've never been more, I take that back. I haven't been this frustrated as a pro wrestling fan since 2003, you know, when I kind of checked out. And I'm like, if it wasn't for the show and what we do, I feel like I would be checking out right now. Like, and it's
I feel you. Cause there's been times where I'm like, man, do I really want to kick this on? I'm like, well, I need some shit to talk about on Sunday. And I'm usually pretty good. Like if I need to talk out of my ass, I can. And I think people would accuse me of talking out of my ass more often than not, but I have been watching actually a lot more wrestling, but I've liked it less, if that makes sense. But yes, JD took a shot at me to open the show. That's why we love JD. He's back already burying me. I am paying for Twitter now. I did when they first switched it over to a paid model. I only paid because a lot of people that had been verified for years were really upset that you could pay $8 and get verified. And so I went on there and like, I would leave comments like, hey guys, just went from one verified guy to another. Let's just hash this out. Like I would say shit like that. But I've been wanting to stream the show on Twitter, and I tried to stream it like 2 months ago, and it said that I had to be a paid blue check to stream it. I was like, well, I'm not going to stream it. It's not that important to stream the show. I was like, I don't really think it's going to be like a net positive. But then I saw some of my friends who were streaming on Twitter, and I saw some of their numbers, and I was just like, I think we could get those numbers. I think we could do that if we're streaming on Twitter. Now, I don't think there's a big return on investment as far as like ad revenue from Twitter, but I'd like to get our show in front of more people, and I'd like to get more Patreon subscribers. So if you're watching us on Twitter right now, thank you for being here. Like and retweet, or if you're watching on YouTube, whether you're on the Mike and JD Show YouTube or the Voices of Wrestling Network YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. We would greatly appreciate it. And if you want to join us, head over to patreon.com/the Mike and JD Show. Oh, and of course, King of the North super chat says if Mike Gilbert is a certified engagement farmer. I happen to be a certified engagement farmer now because I'm a paid blue check.
We got $2 Canadian for that, or as we'll soon call those, $2 American for that.
Yeah.
If what I'm reading on Twitter is to be accurate.
Yeah. So one time, I was it when we had Ibu on. So we had Ibu on a while back, and Ibu has a lot of fans in India, and they were giving us like 200. I think it's called ruples or rupees. What is it called?
Rupees, I believe.
Rupees, and JD thought that we made $400 on the show. And he's like texting me after, like, dude, we made $400 on the show. And I was like, bro, that's 400 rupees. And he's like, what the hell are you talking about? I was like, bro, those are rupees. Like, that's like 38 cents. And so I had to do like the conversion. I Googled it and I converted it. And sure enough, it was like, it had to have been like 67 cents, which we'll take. Like, thank you very much. Like, anytime you're willing to do a super chat, we'll take it. But I had to teach him the difference between American money and Indian money.
I never felt more dumb in my entire life because I just saw the numbers going across. We don't get super chats, so I had no idea how that worked out. Yeah. And I just saw big numbers, and I thought Ibu just brought the big numbers with him, which is like, here is a thing still. So yeah, that greatly entertained me that week with how stupid. Yeah. I told my wife that story, and she's like, "You're so dumb."
Yeah. So after that, like, I come down the stairs and I'm like giggling, laughing at you. So and I'm watching TV. And then like 30 minutes later, my wife comes down and she just got in feeding the baby, putting the baby to sleep. She comes down and I'm just like giggling to myself. I don't have my cell phone open. I'm watching something random, like probably like a World War II show on like YouTube or something like that. And I'm laughing my butt off. And my wife's like, "What are you laughing at?" I was like, JD thought Indian money was the same as American money, and he thought we made $400 on the podcast.
I did. True story.
Well, so it's like the same. It's like the same in Japan. Like 100 yen is about $1, right?
Buck.
Like, yeah, it's just the way that they do the numbers there. That doesn't mean it's like not good money. It's still good money, but it's just like the way that they count it is different.
Once again, proof that there is no money in India in wrestling.
Well, unless you get a Sony 10 deal, which I do know that two companies right now are competing vociferously to try to get that Sony 10 deal that WWE left behind. But I know, so we got a lot of new eyeballs on the show tonight. Numbers looking solid because we're on X now. So thanks to all the new people. Some people are here because they want to hear one to BJ Bethel, and he's got all the details on the new amended lawsuit that Janel Grant and her attorney Ann Callis filed, on Friday. And he's got all the details. I'll be honest, and I think you guys know this by now. BJ has been on the show several times before, and I wanted to have him on because when JD and I try to talk about this stuff without him, we are impossibly stupid when it comes to like the law and like real, and when it comes to like real news. But he is actually like a legit like investigative reporter that not only does like pro wrestling is kind of like his hobby when he does his reporting, but he does like real sports. He covers the Bengals because he's in Ohio. I won't say where, but he's in Ohio, not Cincinnati. But he covers like real sports, and he covers like local politics and national politics at times. And he's been published in a lot of big papers all around the world. So we're excited to have him on to kind of explain to us what just happened, because there's some new details. Some people have been named that weren't named before, and what it all means, and did we have any smoking guns and all this and that. And I want to pick his brain about how the pro wrestling media has kind of failed wrestling fans, and how WWE has been playing the pro wrestling media as fiddles, and they did it blatantly at the Royal Rumble last night. And so I want to get into that, and we'll get BJ Bethel's info on that. So he is coming at the top of the hour, 21 minutes away. But man, so King just dropped another super chat. So JD just did my taxes. No wonder my return was big. So since that's coming from Canada, I wonder if there's a 25% tariff on that $2 Canadian that he just sent.
And then tariff going back the other way too, from what I hear.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're in a tariff war with Canada all of a sudden. But that's for another podcast. Maybe BJ has info on that.
Blame Canada.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sean Seedor. Hi guys, what's up, brother? Fellow Voices of Wrestling
Voices of
alumnus.
Wrestling.
Yeah, what's up, man? Johnny Robinson, thank you for being here, sir. And then of course our boy Nonzo, tactical playmaker himself. What's going on, Nonzo? Let me see. I think we have another one. Oh, Jameson Fletcher, what's up, man? Glad you are here. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. So you haven't been watching much. So you watched Dynamite last week.
Last weekend.
Yeah. So this is past. So what have you been thinking of Dynamite lately? Like,
Boring,
you just kind of checked out on it.
It's so boring. Like I can't get into it. My 8-year-old, Andy loves wrestling with me. Like, and his friends are all watching Raw, and he was at his buddy's house, and they were watching Raw on Netflix. And he comes home. He's like, I watched Raw on Netflix. So what'd you think? He goes, terrible. Like I got him. He's so jaded. It's great. He goes, they don't have a Will Ospreay over there.
Yeah.
They don't have a Darby Allin over there. Like, it's so, I've just got this kid so jaded. It's great. And I'm just like thinking, I'm like, man, I just wish I cared about what's going on with Dynamite right now. Like, Moxley's having this big long run, and I'm like, I feel like I should be super invested, because last summer when this started, we were both like, this is cool. This is gonna be cool.
Yeah.
And then no. And then we're back to Timeless Tony doing her thing, and it just, I don't know, man. Why does it have to suck so bad?
Well, cousin Joe was on Fed Pill Joe. Cousin Joe himself was on the show last week, and we were kind of discussing some of the issues, because we were essentially reading what Dave was writing. Because I felt like in the last two Observers, Dave is writing an open letter to Tony Khan on how to get this ship righted, right? And kind of get some of their identity back. And it doesn't appear that Tony Khan is reading that publication anymore, or if he is, he's completely not paying attention. Now, Dave is writing about what he likes. I know he will say that what works is what works, and that's what he's trying to figure out. But I sometimes I agree with him, sometimes I don't. But I really feel like he's kind of nailed down some of the problems that are going on in AEW. And this past week on Dynamite, really, it was pretty obvious what's wrong with AEW. Jon Moxley has no opponents. He's got Jeff Jarrett coming for the world title. He's got Adam Copeland coming for the world title, and nobody wants to see that, unfortunately. And I'm a fan of Adam Copeland, and I'm a fan of Jon Moxley, but we're not really interested. And at no point do we think that Copeland's going to win the title. Before that, it was, he went through Orange Cassidy, and then he had the 4-way at World's End, and nobody wanted to see that either. So it's like he's got this series of opponents lined up that nobody really cares about. And the one opponent that we want to see him wrestle is trying to claim Mount Everest. So they're just trying to hold everything off until he gets back and he gets healthy. So, that sucks. I'm a lifelong Jarrett fan. Obviously I got the TNA podcast. His feud with MJF has been terrible. They were on Dynamite a couple of weeks ago, and they were trading jabs like they were insult comics at a roast, except for neither one of them are all that clever or funny, and they're just insulting each other's girlfriends and wives like it was like a cool thing to do. So I didn't really care for that, and I'm not really interested in that match going forward. And then this past week, we had Jeff Jarrett in a match with Claudio, and really Claudio should have beat his ass, but I think they're prepping Jarrett for not only a match with MJF, but an eventual match with Moxley. So it took 3 people from the Death Riders to actually beat Jarrett. You know what I mean? I just feel like the whole show has kind of gone off the rails.
There was a period when Jeff Jarrett got pretty hot as a babyface around the time of the Owen last year. And they should have done something at the time, and they didn't. And now they're trying to go back and make it work. Kind of like the Orange Cassidy thing. When Orange Cassidy was really hot, I believe it was last year around All Out time, they cooled him off immediately and then tried to go back to him. And there comes a point where you can't get it back. And I fear we got that with Will Ospreay, because Will Ospreay was pretty hot in this company last summer, and it just didn't go anywhere. I think Tony, you said, I don't think Tony is reading the Observer anymore. When I say reading it, I mean, I don't think he's like following it. I don't think he's like imbibing from it anymore. Yeah. There comes a point where you achieve, and this happens a lot with people, especially creative people. You achieve a certain amount of success, right? And that success builds your ego, and you think you know what you're doing, right? And you insulate yourself with a group of people around you who try to tell you that you know what you're doing and try to feed your ego because it satiates them and what they need, right? So you don't get good criticism. right? And you become insulated. And then the people inside your circle now tell you that those on the outside don't know what they're doing. Right? You know what you're doing. You've been successful. You did this, you did that. You just need to get one hot thing. We just need to get our bloodline. Right? So Tony is he's lost the plot completely. Right? The show is Dynamite used to be a lot of things, but it was never boring.
Yeah.
Right. Even a bad episode of Dynamite from back in the day was not boring. Like Dynamite is boring now.
Yeah. Even if like the stories were kind of lame and maybe they didn't have good promos, they at least had like 3 pretty awesome matches with a hot crowd. The crowds just don't care anymore. Like they're just not into it seems.
Well, they chased away all the fans that cared about wrestling.
Yeah.
Right. Because and I hate to put it all on him, but I mean, like the MJF title run from a year ago that everybody wanted. So if you're listening to the show and you're trying to tell me, well, that never should have happened. Well, people clamored for it for 2 years. I remember at All Out 2020 when Moxley wrestled, people were like, it's time to go with MJF as the champion. Time to go with MJF as the champion. People wanted that really badly. Unfortunately, when that happened, all we got was WWE Light. Yeah. And it started turning fans off. And everything since then has been WWE Light, and they keep restocking, right? They keep restocking creative with WWE people or WWE fans, like a Will Washington, who clearly just loves WWE and wants to do his own version of WWE over there. So it's like, for a long time, I was really upset with like fan base being like, because I really believed that if you like 2017, 2018 in the space, people will be like, I want an alternative. I want an alternative. I want an alternative. Yeah. Well, we got an alternative. And then it turned out what a lot of people really wanted. They just wanted WWE to be better.
Yeah.
Right. They just wanted their comfort food to taste good again.
Yeah.
And this is where we are now. And the problem is that nobody is offering a voice of opposition anymore. Nobody's offering anything to say, let's be different. Right. And there's no attempt to make anything different. And the problem comes from Tony, because I don't think Tony wants. I think Tony just wants to do his own version of WWE now. I thought that Tony wanted his own thing, right, for the longest time. But now I'm like, nah, man. Tony just wants to do his version of WWE.
Well, I mean, he was a WWE fan, obviously, and a WCW fan and ECW fan. He was a TNA fan, very clearly. He bought the TNA tunnels. So like he brought them over, and so he's a fan of all of wrestling. And I think what happened is he got the money, like he secured the bag, right? And once you get that, you get a little bit comfortable. And one thing that AEW fans need to look out for: the Jacksonville Jaguars still don't have a general manager. They fired Trent Baalke, and they were right to do it because he's terrible. He was the 49ers general manager, and I just can't stand that guy. He ruined that football team for a few years. He came over to Jacksonville, and they are a complete mess right now. I don't think it's a crazy idea to think that Shad wants his son to run that football team. I've not heard anything like that. There's no reports out there, but I was just thinking about it. I was just like, with the way the Cowboys are being ran by Jerry Jones and his son is like the general manager, the way that they're doing business over there, I see that relationship being kind of similar because Tony's heavily involved with that football team. So, and then once that happens, it was like, I don't know what the hell is going to happen with AEW because it seems like they've steered so far off the path that it's going to take a long time for them to come back. Numbers are down across the board. The UK numbers are really good. I think they're up in the, I think they just broke one of the records, so that's good. But American numbers, the bigger market is, everything is down. And I think you said something very important. Wrestling fans just wanted WWE to be good again. And for the most part, they're kind of getting that, right? Like, it's not for everybody. Like, if you like, I think, if you're one of the hardcore sickos or whatever that AEW was so proud of for a while, if you're one of those people, like, you're probably never going back, right? Like, WWE lost you when you were 12, right? But yeah, right? They lost me in 2017. I stuck around until 2017, then I was out. But them being on Netflix, they got hot again. I think a lot of people just kind of went right back to WWE, and the people are enjoying it. And I can't say that they're not. I've covered 3 Raws for our Patreon, and I've enjoyed 2 of them, which is 2 more than I've enjoyed in a very long time. And I was like, oh, this is, it's 2.5 hours. It's on Netflix. I got no commercials. It's an easy watch. It's been fine. So the Royal Rumble, on the other hand, was kind of a mixed bag. JD, I take it you didn't watch the Royal Rumble.
What do you think?
You know, it would be helpful if occasionally you watch it so you could at least shit on it. I think that would be.
Dude, shit. BJ's coming on later. My shits are coming.
Yes,
believe me. I got plenty of shit to do out. Like it's not going to be an issue. No, I mean, what am I gonna? I mean, what is like? Okay, Jey Uso, like main event Jey Uso. I'm supposed to get excited about that now. Like Charlotte winning again. Like I mean, like. Yeah. What is there? Here's my problem with WWE is it's not the fact that I don't think all the scumbags are out. I think Triple H is a giant scumbag. Put a pin in that. There's nothing in there that excites me about it.
Yeah.
There's just nothing about that WWE product for me as a fan that makes me want to go, I want to watch this. And I've stopped watching like you. I watched until 2017 because it was all the wrestling that you had really. That wasn't, when I wasn't watching Flow Slam or whatever, like that's what it was called, right? When Flow Wrestling did their
you went deep. You went deep. That is a deep cut Flow Slam, man.
Okay, so like I'm an amateur wrestling guy, and Flow Wrestling was how that company was built. So when they I already had a Flow account for years. So when they went into indie wrestling, of course I was going to start watching it. Like they told us, we're going to get all these companies, and they just had the Gabe companies, actually.
Yeah.
It was a great idea in theory. I remember Wade Keller got on his podcast and was like, this is going to change wrestling, and it didn't.
Well, it didn't. Eventually, Triller and Fight TV kind of did what Flow Slam did, was kind of do all the indie wrestling. Like Fight TV ended up doing that, but it was like a pay-for-play model. So like each one they just paid for.
I'm gonna pull up a comment here.
This is Antonio. Go easy on Antonio. He's a 40.
I'm not gonna go on him. Like this is Jey Uso is. I like how you capitalized Uso is over. I didn't say he wasn't over.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
He's over.
Here's the thing.
By the way,
for sure. Yeah. They know how to service their fan base, which is all they have to care about. They don't have to care about me. I'll be 45 years old next week. Like I haven't been invested in that product in decades. Like I'd watch it because it was the only thing on TV. I don't like it. It's not for me. I'll be the first to admit it. So for me, I look at it and I go, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Like my wife loves Harry Potter. When she's got some downtime at home, she's got a Harry Potter movie on. It's like her thing. It's one of her favorite things in the world. We went to Universal Studios, had to go on all the Harry Potter stuff. Went to all the Harry Potter little worlds they had there. She loves it. Every time I sit down and watch it with her, I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, and believe me, it's not like I'm too cool for Harry Potter. I'm a big, gigantic comic book nerd, but like, it's just not my thing. Like I look at main event Jey Uso and I'm like, I don't get it. It's not for me, but that's fine because it works with them. I'm not saying the dude ain't over. I'm just saying he ain't very good.
Yeah. I've been watching. So I have not seen a lot of Jey Uso lately. I saw a couple of matches of his last year, but I've been watching Raw this year. I've not seen a single SmackDown in forever. And Jey Uso really is one of the top guys on that show.
No argument.
He's like one of the most over guys. The problem with Jey, which is the problem with Hendry and the problem with LA Knight and the problem with a lot of other people, is that they get the big entrance, the fans are into it, they got the catchphrases, they got the merchandise that they can sling. And then the bell rings and there's not much there, but that works in this company, right? Like
absolutely,
they pop more for the entrances, and they like the matches are like they're into the matches too. I know. I think Joe and Rich were saying like they don't really care about the matches at all. It's like I've been watching Raw pretty regularly. They do but they pop more. They like to see the celebrities, like to see the stars, right? Mm-hmm. And so and they like to hear the music. And when Jey Uso comes through the crowd, he's usually got a rapper with him now, and they're doing the dance. They got Pat McAfee doing the dance and Michael Cole. It's like a whole big cultural phenomenon within this company. That guy is over. So when I saw that Jey Uso won, I wasn't like everybody else. I was like, oh, this is crap. This doesn't make any sense. I was like, this actually makes perfect sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Raw. Yeah,
for sure.
Because he's got a storyline with Gunther right now to where Gunther just beat him on Saturday Night's Main Event, beat his ass. And he's been trying to climb that hill ever since Gunther was the Intercontinental Champion. That's the storyline. It actually makes perfect sense within WWE lore. Jey Uso is absolutely one of the top guys here. He just ain't a very good wrestler.
Right.
And unless he's wrestling Gunther, his matches are not very good, but Gunther is so good. And Jay can be a good sympathetic babyface. Like the dynamic works between those two.
No argument. Like I said, and this is the thing is like, here's a guy that's been with that company for 15 years, probably when the Usos came in as a tag team. Right. And he's actually, climbing the ladder, like something that didn't happen a lot in that company. So, I mean, like, you can't say they're not telling stories. You can't say they're not making people that are over. I'm not arguing that.
Yeah.
My whole argument is I just don't want to watch it. It's just not for me. You and I said here on this show months ago that when Penta debuted in WWE, he was going to be a star because he's got that entrance. He's great with the crowd. Like, and look at him now. Shocking. Like, no, anyone could see it coming. He was severely underutilized in AEW. We said that many times too.
Yes.
But like in WWE, it's great. He's a perfect fit there. Quite frankly, should have been there years ago.
Yeah. He actually, like, if you watch him work, he's actually a better fit in WWE than he is in AEW. The problem is in AEW, they let him do a lot, and it was probably too much. There's JD's train. It was probably too much because he is really a botch machine.
Yes.
And so, and WWE fans finally got to witness that firsthand. Finally, like he did botch a couple moves against Chad Gable, but in the Royal Rumble, he was kind of like all over the place. And in fact, he ended up getting eliminated. Both feet hit the floor, and he just went right back in, like trying to make it seem like nobody noticed. But it was very clearly like the camera was like right on it.
Very
like the Batista thing. It was the Batista thing from years ago. And he went right back in, and instead of calling it like a shoot, they just pretended like it never happened, and he just went right back in, and that was the beginning of the match.
But that's slop. And I get it. We had all this stuff planned, but this is the stuff that I don't like about WWE is like that stuff matters. And again, for their fan base, it's fine. Like, and the problem is different kind of fan base used to have a different kind of product. And now we don't have that product anymore. Because at some point, Tony Khan got it in his head that he fell into the same trap that Dixie Carter fell in, the same trap that Jim Herd fell in, the same trap that Kip Fry fell in, that this is what Vince does.
Yeah.
So this is what we have to do. Instead of being different. For all this bullshit about challenger brands and being Pepsi and like all that stuff, it's not true. It's just not true.
David
Texas fan.
He's a wordsmith. David, he said insipid baby brained McDonald's wrestling. I think that's a good way to describe it. I like to call. I think other people are saying it too. I've seen some people say they're just kind of Disney adults that like to count, and they like the music, they like the entrances, right? And so and that's why one of the guys that was most over last night was Joe Hendry. And they loved him. Like that place exploded when he came out. He got in the ring. They didn't really care that much because they didn't know his finisher. In fact, he hit his finish on The Miz, and Michael Cole didn't call it because he didn't know what the finisher was. But he was completely over. And now he got knocked out in 2 minutes, which is more time than he spent in his first battle royal in WWE. So I guess that's an improvement.
Barely true.
I
like your McDonald's. I like the McDonald's. I like the Disney adults thing. My family took the vacation to Disney World last year, and I talked about it on the show. Like there's adults that just live and die by going to Disney World. They love Disney World. The Magic Kingdom is the worst vacation I ever had in my entire life. It's hot. There's no shade. The lines are long. It's boring. A lot of the stuff sucks. Like we were in line for Pirates of the Caribbean for 3 fucking hours, and you sit in a boat and look at mannequins. What the fuck is that?
So I got a life hack. I got a life hack for everybody. So I went to Disneyland in America. So I went to Tokyo Disney when I was stationed out there years ago. But I went to Disneyland in LA, I think 2 years ago. And thankfully, my nephew who plays baseball had broken his ankle. So he had a cast, and that got you ahead of the line. You had a handicap thing. So what you need to do is just put Andy in like a cast or a boot, and then push him around in a wheelchair so you can get ahead of the lines. Like that's the way to go.
His raging ADHD will not allow that to happen. Sean Sedor has the true remark right here that we got to pull up.
Okay.
Universal Studios is better, always has been. This is 100% accurate. Universal Studios is what Disney claims to be, but Disney has, and this is great. This is perfect analogy here. Disney has this loyal fan base of grown adults that I got a lot of family that are like this too, weirdos, like grown adults that live and die by this mouse in this god awful, horrible theme park. The Star Wars stuff is really cool. I will say that, but the Magic Kingdom is cool. However, down the road, Universal Studios, real roller coasters, real state-of-the-art rides, real food that is actually good, like Shade. They have Shade at Universal Studios. Like that is what AEW needs to be. Shade, right? Yeah. It needs to be different. Universal Studios is so different than Disney World. They try to be different. Tony doesn't want to be different anymore. He wants to be like, I don't know, Busch Gardens or some shit. I don't know. I'm making stuff up now.
Yeah. I'm wondering is it Tony or is it the network or what's going on? Or has he just got a lot of WWE brains in his head at all times? And now I'm starting to think that Jarrett's got a lot of power there now just because him and his wife are featured on the show every week. And there's just way too many old people. But I don't know, but to get to double back to the Royal Rumble, because I did put in the tagline Royal Rumble reaction. I do just need to give my thoughts on the show.
Speaking of raging ADHD.
Yeah. So, you know what? I didn't hate the men's Royal Rumble. In fact, they had this kid come out. I guess he's a celebrity called I Show Speed, and Braun Breaker killed that bastard. I think he's one of those kids that plays video games on the internet. So he's one of those guys, I think. So Braun Breaker killed him. I thought that was pretty cool. It was fun to see Joe Hendry, but goddamn, do they not respect that TNA title whatsoever? They had Roman Reigns eliminate him in 2 minutes, and I was like, well, you guys should have saw that one coming. But he did get the big reaction, so I was like, I was happy he got that. But boy, oh boy, did he get? I think the comparison was Taz wrestling Triple H back in the day. Yeah,
I'm gonna say I feel like we've been here before.
Yeah. So the funny thing is that last year when Jordynne Grace was in it, and she was in it again this year, obviously. When Jordynne Grace was in it, they actually let her stay in for like 10 minutes. And then I don't think she eliminated anybody, but she was in it for like 10 minutes and looked great. But Joe was in, he beat up the Miz, which I think everybody should beat up the Miz. He hit his standing ovation finisher, and then Jacob Fatu took him out. Roman Reigns comes down, and then they end up fighting a little bit, and he just kind of eliminated him. But and then what else were the highlights? I mean, that was really it. It was mostly about like the entrances and like the big stars, of course, like typical Royal Rumbles. Jake Paul came out. Jake Paul was part of I think Jake Paul's got some heat on him right now because he was trying to outshine a lot of the veteran wrestlers during the match. Like, I guess they're like legit pissed. I guess like Drew McIntyre is legit pissed at him over it. That's the rumor going around on the internet.
Is Drew legit pissed, or is Drew doing his working pissed guy thing?
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. But Sapp and a few other people, I think Meltzer, said that he's legit pissed. Now, none of them will say Logan Paul, but if you watch the video of the moment that Drew gets ousted, Logan Paul's like in the middle of the ring trying to get the cameras on him, while Drew McIntyre, who's starting an angle with Damian Priest, is getting eliminated. So I think like everybody's kind of pissed at him. I thought the guy who came across as the biggest star, surprise, is Jacob Fatu. I think he's going to be like one of the top guys in this company going forward. And we've been on his train for a long time.
I was writing articles about Jacob Fatu back in 2019 when he was on the come up in MLW. Like the only thing that surprises me is how long it took for Jacob Fatu to get here. And that's his own his own immaturity. We'll just leave it at that. And like, I'm glad he's here. I'm glad that it's working out for him. Actually, David Bixen's fan again. By the way, if you guys don't listen to Between the Sheets on every week on podcasts, you really should. It's the best historical wrestling podcast out there. Bix says SRS reported tonight that Logan Paul isn't get his shitting guy.
Oh, so the guy that everybody's mad about. So I wonder who it is. That's weird. It looked. I mean, like I was watching it. It looked like Logan Paul. Logan Paul dumped out CM Punk really hard, and CM Punk, like when they dump him out,
that's funny. God damn it!
I know, dude. So he dumps out CM Punk, and typically you land on the apron and then you fall to the floor, especially with the older guys. He dumped out Punk, and Punk just went over the top rope and landed right on his ass on the floor, and you could tell that shit hurt. I was like, holy shit! And then right afterwards, Seth Rollins does the curb stomp to Roman Reigns, but he slips and he ends up getting Roman Reigns with both feet and then just slams his head into the mat on the floor.
Ow.
It looked bad. I was like, I bet Roman is going to have a conversation with Seth Rollins after that, but I think they're setting up something there. But it's well, it was it was pretty. And then of course Jey Uso ends up eliminating John Cena, and they did a whole dramatic thing, and John Cena came in the ring and put him over. So looks like John Cena probably win the Elimination Chamber next month and head on to Cody, and then we'll get Gunther versus Jey Uso. Main event Jay, but probably like in the first match of night one or something like that. So which that's not a money drawing match, but I think but Jey Uso really is over. And the women, I didn't think the women match was very good at all. Jordan Grace got a little bit of shine there, but she didn't really last too long, but they did treat her like she was a star. So she's signed with the company now. They announced her as officially being there. There was not like Alexa. Oh, so I want to get into it with BJ. I just texted him to see if he's like, hey bro, I'm trying to kill time. You still coming? So Alexa Bliss showed up earlier in the week. It was reported, I think it might've been Meltzer. It was reported that Alexa Bliss and WWE were far apart on a contract. Conspiracy Mike. I'm just want everybody to know this is Conspiracy Mike talking, and JD knows I am susceptible to the conspiracies, UFOs, JFK. I'm into it. So just when I say this, this is Conspiracy Mike talking. But I don't think this is a crazy conspiracy. I think WWE fed Meltzer some bad information to try to make him. Oh, hold on. Shit. I got David Bixispan fact checking me in real time. It was Mike Johnson. It was Mike Johnson. Then it was backed up by Dave. Thank you, David. So Bix is keeping me on my toes.
Bix doing Bix work out here. I love it.
Yeah. So, well, he's like one of the best researchers out there when it comes to pro wrestling journalism. So he's going to keep me on my shit. So, so anyway, Mike Johnson, and then backed up by Dave, said they're far apart on money. It looks like WWE might have fed bad information to them to get them to create like this bidding war. Like, hey, Alexa Bliss might leave and go to AEW, and then only for her to be the surprise entrant, because immediately after she shows up, Michael Cole says, I thought on the internet that she wasn't going to be here. And then Wade Barrett, no shit, JD, Wade Barrett, you have to check the clip out. It's on Twitter. No shit says, don't listen to the dirt sheets on WWE Royal Rumble and blame the dirt sheets for starting a rumor, when it was very likely they're the ones that fed the rumor to the dirt sheets to begin with. So just so they can have that moment and say that line to get people to discredit the media right around the same time that this big story is dropping.
Yeah, that's kind of right out of their playbook, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's conspiracy, Mike, but it kind of sounds like it's legit, right?
I don't think you have some insane conspiracies. I will kowtow to that 100%. I've heard some crazy things come out of you, but I don't think this one's crazy. They've done this before. Like they feed stuff. Oh, so-and-so's contract's coming up. And usually Dave, like, that guy's been signed for months. It doesn't surprise me that one might've slipped past the goalie. Right. Yeah. And they just wanted that opportunity. Like, you can't trust anything that comes out of anyone's mouth out there. And again, this is part of the problem, is like they have this insular little bubble. And if you're a fan, if you're like sitting there eating and stuff like that, you will buy anything they sell you. So, I mean, what are you going to do, man?
Yeah. Let's see. David has a good comment. He says, don't listen to those dirt sheets, especially not this week when it comes to a woman being unhappy with WWE. Ew. Sean Cedar, don't forget the Meltzer Fears fact sign in the crowd. Yeah, they kept panning to that one. It's like, how childish can you be? And this company's been doing this forever, by the way. Just at war and at odds with the media.
So I don't know if I would call Vince McMahon an insecure person, right? Vince has his issues, but I don't know if I would chalk him to being insecure. One Paul Levesque, remarkably an insecure person. So, yes. I mean, it's not like things aren't going to keep continuing in that direction.
Yeah. Well, and we're going to get on as I continue to kill time waiting for BJ. We'll talk more about his
BJ coming. BJ, stand us up. I feel like we're on a date.
No, he said he was coming. I promise. Okay. He said he would be here. So I worked it out with him. I worked it out with him yesterday. So yesterday. So hold on.
We had to go with Vix again.
Don't forget that Joe Lanza and Cassidy Haynes both reported a few months ago that WWE tried to plan a fake Kevin Owens contract story with Dave, so they could go all fake news on him if he bit. Yes, I remember that one. Yes, and but Dave did not bite on that one. Yes. So they're actively trying to sabotage. If the pro wrestling media didn't understand by now, like last night had to be the tip of the iceberg. WWE does not respect you whatsoever. They don't respect the hardworking journalists, the legitimate journalists, and they certainly don't respect content creators, and they respect the propagandists even less, right? Because they are using you as a tool because they know that you'll do anything for a WWE logo cheese board to come to your house. They know it, and they're just willing to use you any way that they can. In fact, Cheeseboard himself earlier in the week was tweeting about Dave Meltzer just randomly again because they knew that some shit was about to drop, and that's what he did. He did the same thing to Bix too, like that. Yeah, scumbag Cheeseboard. Anyway, back to the Rumble.
Okay.
Yes, fuck him. Yes. The worst match on the show, JD, which is going to shock you. And this was the match that I was looking forward to the most because I haven't been watching SmackDown, so I have not actually seen the Motor City Machine Guns in WWE. I've seen some clips and some GIFs on Twitter, but I haven't actually watched a full match. It was the Motor City Machine Guns up against DIY and a best 2 out of 3 falls match.
That was the worst match in the show?
For me, that's like, the Fantastics and the Rock and Roll Express. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm thinking that's gonna fucking rule. It was dog shit. I left thinking that maybe the Machine Guns are cooked. The crowd wasn't into it. Nobody cared. They went best 2 out of 3 falls in a 14-minute match. The first fall was within like 3 minutes. It felt like neither team was on the same page. It was rough in a lot of parts. It just didn't look good. It was boring. I ended up walking away from it, and I went and like made myself some coffee because I was falling asleep. I was like, this thing sucked, man. It was a terrible match.
I never would have expected one. I keep forgetting the Motor City Machine Guns are in WWE now.
Yeah.
2, I never in a million years would have expected that. Like that, is that really? Like I didn't hear that. Like that's crazy to me.
Yeah. No, they've had apparently I haven't watched anything. They've had a pretty good run on SmackDown. They were the tag champions, and then DIY turned on them, so they got a storyline there. But JD, that match was not great. It was not great. They had no chemistry, which was shocking. Yeah, it was so weird. Like those two teams seemed like they were made for each other.
Yeah.
So I was like looking forward to it. But you know what? Like DIY is not the same DIY they were 5 years ago. But the last I saw Motor City Machine Guns in TNA, they were still really freaking good. So is
Ciampa just not Ciampa anymore? Does he not? I mean, he's been beat up a lot. So I just wonder, is the injuries has taken a lot out of him?
I'm guessing so, but that it just seemed like they just weren't on the same page, and they couldn't get anything done. So
okay, Bix got a good comment here. Bix says nothing against Motor City Machine Guns as people, but they both need to update their look, especially Shelly. The clothes in Shelly's hair make them look like midlife crisis middle-aged guys.
They look like they're still going to My Chemical Romance concerts.
Especially with WWE having not developed the characters at all. It's actually a really good point. Like for guys like us, the Motor City Machine Guns really mean something, especially 2 guys who had a TNA podcast, right? Like you still have it. Like the guns mean something to us, but to like the kids in my class, right? The ones that are doing the yeet chants and sticking the ones up in the air when I come into the classroom, which is so annoying. But like, so like they don't care. They don't have that connection to the Motor City Machine Guns.
Yeah, they got to get a flashier look probably and get catchphrases. But when they do that, they're going to lose the essence of what made them great. They were one of the best in-ring tag teams of the last 20 years, right? So and very influential, right? So I was just so disappointed in the match.
I don't know. I think you got to look at this as like a gold watch run for them. Like this is their chance to get to something they never thought possible. So I got to tip my cap on this.
It was a bad match. I think like they'll probably be on TV for like another year, and then they'll just end up as coaches, which I think like both of them have history of doing, especially Shelly. I think he actually like was like a head coach at a school at one point, so he's trained a lot of people. So, but for me, the best match of the night was Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes in a ladder match. Joe and Rich shit all over it, so I was like, man, now I got to go on my podcast and be like, I actually kind of liked the match, and I'm sick of ladder matches too. But I really just like these 2 guys. I think that are great. Especially Kevin Owens. The finish of the match was they set up the ladder kind of as a table and on the outside, and Cody Rhodes did the Alabama slam. He had the legs over the shoulders and he did the Alabama slam through the ladder, and then Kevin Owens' head got caught in the ladder and he's bleeding all over the place. It looked pretty sick. It actually ended up looking it was actually pretty safe. It looked crazy, but and then Cody did the long walk up there and got the belt. So that was my Royal Rumble thoughts. I'm going to continue trying to watch some of these shows as long as I can hold on. Really, as long as you guys will keep listening to me talk about them, I'll keep doing it. But I don't know how much longer I can do Raw though. Like but I have been I thought Raw, out of Raw, Dynamite, and Impact, I thought Raw was actually the best of the three, and it was the one that had the least amount of wrestling, which is kind of incredible. But I just think that they just have like really good promos on that show right now, and big time characters.
Guys, if you want me to start watching Raw and Netflix, like I said, and the shows, like I said, I'm probably the worst wrestling podcaster around right now because I'm not watching it. If it's really important to you that I start watching this stuff so I can converse better with Mike, you're gonna have to go somewhere else because it's not gonna happen.
I mean, you could at least get the cock and then the occasional big show and join in with me, but Jay, the cock one time. Just
I got some cock in Big Show. Yeah, I can spread some cock around a little bit.
All right. Well, the moment that you guys have all been waiting for, you've been listening to JD and I, a couple of buttheads rambling nonsense. Idiots, really. We've got one of our very special guests, friend of the show. He has kept us honest a lot of times. He is back like a vertebrae. One BJ Bethel. How you doing, BJ? Thanks for being here.
Back like a vertebrae.
So, it's so funny that line. I've been saying that line since like 15. So here's the backstory. When I was like 15 years old, I traded my Korn CD. I cannot remember the name of the CD, but it was the one that had Got the Life on it, right? Okay. I traded that CD because I was just done with it at the time. I had kind of worn it out. I traded it to my buddy in Missouri. So no, I might have been 16. So I traded to my buddy in Missouri who had Insane Clown Posse, the Great Malenko. I had not heard Insane Clown Posse before. So we trade CDs, right? And the very first song on that CD and the very first line on that CD was Abracadabra, Boom Shaka-Day, I'm Violent J, and I'm back like a vertebrae. And the rest of the CD from there just goes downhill. It's one of the worst goddamn pieces of shit I've ever heard in my life. It stunk. Those guys cannot rap. They're terrible. But for whatever reason, I thought that line was so funny. I've just been saying I'm back like a vertebrae ever since. So anyway, I ruined everybody's night with an ICP reference. How you doing, BJ?
I'm fine. How are you guys?
Good. So you're a bit of a heat magnet right now because you are one of the few people out there reporting the truth. In an era where nobody in our business and nobody in the media space, I hate saying space, but I've got to say it. Nobody out there on this side of pro wrestling is actually wanting to do that, but you're one of the few that are actually truth tellers that we have. So please, thank you for being here, man. But have you been getting a lot of hate tweets and a lot of DMs threatening your life and all that stuff lately?
Yeah. I mean, whatever. They're amateurs.
Yeah.
I used to challenge people to fights online, and they threatened me, and I'd say, "Hey, what state I'm in. I can come meet you," and that would usually back some of them off. And that wasn't when I was very young and stupid and in much better shape. But yeah, I mean, it's the heat. But when you're reporting on, big important stories, that's just kind of naturally comes with it. When you're talking about billionaires and sex trafficking and stories along those lines that involve the federal government and big industry and lots of fans that are passionate and they don't want to have their fandom ruined by outside events. They can react very passionately and sometimes absurdly.
Yeah.
Even some wrestling reporters do this from time to time.
Yeah.
So
fantasy is something that people cling to so much because the reality of life is hard, and a lot of people just look for wrestling to be this like fantasy world where you can turn your brain off, and they hate having reality thrown in their face. And the reality is that this business has never been full of good people, right? It's still a fucked up carny place to this day. And the fact that people choose that ignorance is disturbing. But to continue,
just like what you said, I had this talk with some people and specifically about how as things change through the 2010s and social awareness changes and what's acceptable to say and isn't to say publicly changes. I've always said, it's going to be very hard to find people in the wrestling business who came of age before the year 2010 that are really good people. It's a very hard thing to do. There's some out there. There's some in the industry now that are great people, but most of them have come along since 2010. And a lot of it's reflected in how people behave and react, and you see that a lot online, especially when you're reporting on big stories. And frankly, I just don't care. If they don't like it, they can eat it. I got a job to do. And this is a 20-year long story for me, and reporting on Vince McMahon and some of the things that's been going on in this company. And frankly, if content creators don't like it, they can go do something else.
Well, fuck themselves. This is this shit. You can say that.
They can eat shits. They can piss up a rope. There's lots of things they can go do. But what they can't do is criticize.
Just get out of the room. Let the adults
yeah.
Like,
Quit. If you guys want to be,
if this isn't what you signed up for, go find something else. Because when stuff happens and bad stuff happens in every industry, in your job, and you decided you're going to have a platform on a YouTube or a channel or a podcast or on Twitter, and you're talking about this stuff, and most of the time it's fun. Guess what? There's going to be times where it's not fun. It doesn't matter if it's NASCAR. It doesn't matter if it's professional sports. It doesn't matter what
Sean
it is. Yeah, I mean, it could be, anything. And this is a very dirty industry. Everybody knows that by now. And if you have a problem with people who are reporting the truth about this industry, then you really have a problem with yourself. You need to take a hard look in the mirror at the job that you're doing, when it comes to, reporting on things and how you're reacting to it, what your relationships are with these people and these companies, and take a hard look at yourself. That's what I think you should do. And if you don't like that, find something else to do.
So let's dig in, man. Mike and I talk often about how stupid we are. So, let's break down the new amended
law. You
law.
guys are really smart. Don't say that. You guys are beyond, really close to the top as far as the IQ points go, and I think we know that.
Everybody,
I think your audience knows that.
Look at the space we're in, man. Yeah. We're waiting. We play in the kiddie pool, realistically speaking.
Yeah, what was the old saying? It's like being the nicest guy in prison. It's like, thanks, BJ.
So let's dig in, man. What's changed with the Janel Grant?
Well, okay, so the Janel Grant complaint was amended on Friday. It came in later in the day. This was the last day that she had her deadline set for her to amend the complaint. So what changed was they basically her law team's looking to kind of show that how she was treated as a commodity by different people within WWE, namely Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, Brock Lesnar, who was named officially in the suit this time. He's not being sued, but his name is mentioned in it. He's not a party to the suit. That should be made clear. Michael P.S. Hayes' name came up basically as somebody that her videos were sent to. There was other details that was added. It was really kind of it was a very substantial addition to the complaint. It was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
It was not easy to read. The first edition of the complaint, which was released last year around this time, was very hard to read. It was a hard get through. This one was even harder. Some of the things that were added that was just details, such as her office was had a entranceway for John Laurinaitis. This was something that, according that Nick Khan and Brian Bloom, who've been accused of knowing about when they would design the office, and that's in the amended complaint.
So
now, is that true or not? BJ, I guess we're going to find out.
Yeah, let me pause you right there because I do have a question about that. What was her job at the time that, and you might not know the answer to this question, but I'm just curious, was she John Laurinaitis' secretary at that time, or was she his assistant? And is that why they approved the remodeling?
I know at some point she was going to be promoted to vice president of talent relations, and she would have been second to John.
Right.
But I don't know when the office was being built and it was constructed, or what the timeline was for that matter, or if she even ever moved into it. And I don't know what her title was when it was being constructed.
Okay, because for whatever reason, I had it in my head that she was like his secretary or his assistant at the time, and then if she was his assistant, I was like looking at. Okay, hold on. I'm glad we got David here. David's in the chat. Bixen Span. He's keeping us honest. He said she was not his assistant. I'm not sure she ever had an official title in talent relations though. So I guess my thing was I was trying to make sense of the remodeling of it. Like, hey, what we kind of know what happened now, but like outside looking in, like what would be the professional reason? Like what would be the official reason? And if she were his assistant, that would kind of make sense. Like to have because I'll be honest, like my commander has a secretary and they have kind of conjoining offices, and she has like a door that goes to his office, and then he always has to walk through her office to kind of get out to the hallway. So in my head, when I heard that, I was like, well, if that's his assistant or secretary, that would make sense. But as of right now, we don't know what the title was.
Yes,
Okay.
At the time of the office construction, no. I do know they had a job planned for her higher up in talent relations at some point. Yeah. I don't know if she ever got to assume the role or not. That's something that's on a timeline I'm just gonna have to work out and read through. But they did plan on having an office for her that was like could be accessed by Laurinaitis only, and I guess was pass secured from the outside.
Yeah.
So this was basically what the lawsuit's hinting at, and what's being alleged is that this was used so he could have access to her for sexual activities. The other things that were kind of dropped in this was that that office shared a wall with Paul Levesque's office.
Yeah.
But his name's really not brought up much. I think just once or twice, and that it was shared with his wall. Nick Khan supposedly had knowledge of this construction for the office. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, so what I read is that
unless he was like the building manager or something. I don't know. Maybe that fell under his.
What I read was, and I was like, man, unfortunately, like he's like one of those guys. He's like, his name just kind of pops up everywhere in every scandal, it seems like, but they never really have anything concrete on the guy, and that's kind of similar here. He's kind of approved the blueprint, but who knows what he even read. So it's kind of like there's not really much there, and that's it's like
Nick's name has been flying around a lot lately. Yeah, this wasn't even the only lawsuit. His name was mentioned on Friday. There was a lawsuit filed by a former Fox Sports anchor for FS1 who mentioned that she had been sexually. She's accusing former Fox Sports executive Charles Dixon of sexual assault, and she mentions Nick Khan in that lawsuit, and says that Dixon and another person at the network at the time, whose name I can't recall, they basically wanted her to go to Nick Khan at CAA and get a new agent because they didn't like the current agent she had. And Khan told her that she had to do business. She wanted to do business with Fox. She was going to have to do business with CAA, which was who Nick Khan worked for before WWE. This is the second time his name's been dropped in one of the Fox sexual harassment lawsuits. The first was the one involving a hairdresser and Skip Bayless. Dixon's name was also dropped in that, and accusations leveled against him. So he's not. Nick Khan has not had a good month or so. His name seems to be popping up with these incidents that happened. Plus, there's Lee Fitting, who is the he's one of the producers of Raw, and I think of WWE programming anyway. And
he's
scandal. Yeah,
he's like the director of the show. He took over for Kevin Dunn.
Yeah, he got fired from ESPN and ESPN Game Day for sexual harassment reasons. That was a big story in The Athletic a couple months ago.
Yeah,
and he's somebody else that was connected to Nick Khan. Jamie Horowitz was somebody who was let go last year in 2023 by WWE. He was fired from Fox Sports in 2017 for sexual harassment. He was another person that he was connected with Nick Khan and ended up at WWE because of Nick Khan.
He's kind of connected to a lot of scummy people.
He's connected to a lot of people who have.
But there's nothing on him that can stick yet. Yeah, unfortunately there's nothing on that guy that can stick. He's savvy enough to kind of keep him.
I mean, he knows
naming all these lawsuits, but they don't allege that he's doing anything wrong at this point. But he's just kind of like he's just in that seedy underworld of what's going on in the entertainment business and sports broadcasting.
I mean, sports media is terrible business. It's been that way for a long time. I mean, you remember the original ESPN book that came out about 10 years ago about, the first 25 years of the network and the problem women had there. I mean, this is something that's not indifferent to TV news either, unfortunately. To me, I just wonder if at some point TKO gets kind of troubled by the fact that his name keeps getting popped and linked to these different kind of incidents. I don't know if they care about that kind of thing or not there, especially because TKO, those are WME guys.
Yeah.
And they call it CAA. That's kind of like Coke, Pepsi, Ford, Chevy.
Yeah.
Those are the rivals. But who knows? To me, I think the thing to focus on is, and I think the real scandal could come out of this is just, there's rumors that, the Trump, Vince's side is saying that the feds have completed their investigation into him and they haven't charged him with anything. Janel Grant's side says that as of last month, they were still investigating him. With Trump coming into the White House, a lot of the things at the DOJ and at the court level have been thrown kind of awry. There doesn't seem to be a real will to prosecute people who are rich and powerful. But I think the real scandal here could be, Vince, if these allegations, are coming out and are more public. And you also have Lee Cole talking about Linda McMahon and her stories about her supposedly coming out. You also have the Ring Boy lawsuit out there. It's like, what happens if this doesn't get prosecuted? What happens if this becomes a bigger story? Then this becomes something that could affect the administration.
I
mean, whether the administration
that would be,
cares or
I
not.
think, yeah, I think
know.
that would, I don't see this affecting this administration because I think that
that's a kind of a reach, but at
Yeah.
the same time, these big time, I mean, look at the Sean Combs, P. Diddy lawsuit, look at Harvey Weinstein, look at Jeffrey Epstein, rich, powerful people in these positions who are doing things like this. They, a lot of them have been getting busted. And I think anybody that's seen given cover in an instance like this, or maybe not taking it seriously, I think it could be a real political problem for them.
Yeah. I can see that, especially if they just kind of, I think the interesting thing is if, so the federal investigation into Vince McMahon is still ongoing. That has not closed, right? Because there was the SEC one, right? But then there was the other one. You don't know?
I don't know.
Okay.
The SEC one, there's different thoughts on this. I'm talking to a couple people now who I'm learning more about this as it's going on, and I'm working to find out more. But I will say that I've talked to one person with knowledge of how things work at in Southern District, New York, and they told me it would probably be highly unlikely that they're still investigating Vince. And this is kind of a scoop, I guess, for you guys. It'd be highly unlikely if they were investigating Vince and settled with him as the SEC allegations, and not settle with him on the DOJ investigation, the FBI investigation, and the grand jury.
Right.
But I don't have anything telling me that this stuff's done and that the feds have been done. And when I've called and talked to them, they've told me no comment. I've asked them point blank, have you? I've asked them point blank, are you investigating him or not? And I get a no comment.
Yeah.
Now,
According to Bix,
doesn't mean that they are. They could just not give me a comment.
So according to Bix, who's in the chat, keeping us honest all night. Thank you, Bix. He says CNBC and Meltzer both reported DOJ investigation is dead, with Dave citing sources.
CNBC reported other sources that told
that's,
him.
Yeah, but BJ, you're asking for sources on the other side, not the Vince side, on the other side, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I have not gotten anything until I hear something definitively from the feds themselves. I can't say if they're still prosecuting him or not. I have not heard that from either. Every time I've asked them, I've gotten a comment. Now, I think it could be highly likely they're not investigating him based on one, Dave's a great reporter. Two, CNBC's got their stuff together. And three, from people that I talked to, it's been highly unlikely that they would settle with him on the SEC allegations and still have something hanging with the DOJ. Yeah. That's what I've been told. So, to me, that signals to me that they're probably done, but it doesn't. I mean, we'll see what happens. The amendment that came out Friday night was very powerful, and I just cannot sit. I imagine, I don't know, there'd be a lot of political ramifications if something like this were to happen, and this is to get more public, and people weren't to know about it. I mean, the evidence is pretty damning what they had. There was dozens more text messages, including in this. There were selfies of Vince. There was probably the craziest thing was that, and I ended up taking just the text straight from the complaint itself, but there was a portion in the Netflix documentary where apparently you can see Vince on his phone and he's actually talking to Grant when she sent him photos,
Yeah.
Which blew my mind.
So they have they have the timestamps of the text, and it correlates to the time that it was actually he was on the show, but we can't see on camera like him actually, like we can't see the pictures or anything like that. Like nobody.
They show some screenshots in the actual civil suit complaint
Gotcha.
from the documentary,
and he's like on set at the time, and he's telling her to send him pictures.
They're in a meeting, and this looks like they're shooting B-roll of him in a meeting.
Yeah.
And it looks like it flips to his phone quickly, and there's something going on in the conversation. It was just, it's unbelievably careless. I sent an email to the Ringer on Friday night asking them about this, if they had a statement or anything. I haven't heard anything back. I'm hoping to hear something tomorrow because Monday, everybody's back to work. But yeah, I just wanted to say, if this made the air, was this something you guys, knew about or snuck in, or just was it an accident? What's going on? So hopefully we get an answer from that.
And considering his brazen behavior, it's like, did you guys know what he was looking at? Right.
I mean, it's no surprise. I mean, to see how Vince has acted, I mean, in his reputation, I mean, to be that brazen would not be surprising at all. I mean, just look at some of the, look how brazen the company still acts. Look at the Liv Morgan angle last year.
Yeah.
It was taken straight from the Grant complaint. Look at past incidents he's had where he's used that as fodder for online, or fodder for on TV stuff. And it's, when you're covering his stuff, you're watching it, and it's just like you kind of have to remember, some people, the audacity level's higher.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously this guy thought he was invincible for a long time, and the chickens finally came home to roost. Or at least we'll see if they will, because I'll be honest, like just looking at this and then hearing that the federal investigation is dead, would that give the Grant side less leverage over the Vince and the WWE side if that investigation is dead? Because I think at one point it seemed like she was wanting to push for like there to be some type of charges, right? And then maybe
I think they were well, we know that I don't know whose cases were investigated by the feds.
Okay.
It would be the safe assumption would be Grant, because that fits sex. I mean, that was what the Wall Street Journal reported, was they were investigating for sex assault, rape, and sex trafficking.
Yeah.
And that's the same allegation she makes in her civil complaint. But I would say that as far as the federal charges go, I mean, I would wait until something's said by the feds. I think Meltzer and CNBC is a good source. I know what I've been told as well, but until I hear something from somebody directly from the government, I'm not gonna, or maybe even from Grant's side, to I wouldn't push that too far.
Yeah.
Because it's just, these things can also, grand juries are tricky things. But also I think it also emphasizes just how little that you see, you're going to see Trump and want to push, he's going to, how little he's going to want to prosecute people that are in power. I mean, you've already had Mayor Adams up in New York, Eric Adams. It looks like they're going to drop his indictment. He's a Democrat, but he's a powerful guy in New York. That fits Trump's, that fits who he likes to hang out with. So to me, that's probably kind of the bigger scandal could be happening here, is that, you're having a lot of people that are, because of their pocketbooks, which that's no strange thing to happen in America, people getting off because of their money or getting away with things because of money. But at this level of crime, which has been prosecuted lately, especially against Harvey Weinstein and others and Bill Cosby, it would be a very, very, it would be a big scandal, I think. It would at least it would get some attention, and it also to ask some questions about the White House. But that's something we'll have to see.
Yeah, I totally agree. So
that was the Rumble guy.
Yeah, what's that?
No. But I said I was the Rumble, guys.
Oh, yeah. Well, I kind of don't want to talk
anyways,
about. I kind of don't want to talk about the Rumble anymore.
I know. I this sobering stuff. It is. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard to talk. I appreciate you
Well,
guys taking the time to.
Well,
I
it is
appreciate you taking
difficult
the
to
time
talk
say-
about, and I think people watching this on video could probably see how uncomfortable JD and I are. But you have to have these uncomfortable conversations because it's important to get the truth out there, and that's why we want to. That's why we like bringing.
Well,
you
these
on.
are important issues and important stories, and they need covered. And I don't think that's happening right now in the greater mainstream media right now, as far as how they view the wrestling business. And it certainly isn't happening within the wrestling business and the wrestling media. You know, I mean, I hate to tell Stone Cold 420 that his I hate to see him lose his press passes to the Rumble, but
Yeah.
I mean, that was the 4 best questions they had for Paul Levesque last night. I mean, it's a joke.
It's embarrassing. So I just 2 more questions about the new details, and then I want to go on to talk about some more of the media stuff. So one guy that was named that had not been named before is Michael P.S. Hayes. He actually took a hiatus last year at one point, but he is now back. He's back at every show. And they're alleging that he made her send him videos and things like that, like custom material. This is the first time that he's been named in the lawsuit. What do we think happens to him? Are they going to keep him around, or is he going to go on another hiatus? What's going to go on with him?
I think what happened, what they say in the complaint, is that she sent him videos and to other people on the production crew. I don't know what this means for him. I guess he was at Rumble this weekend, working backstage, but I mean, they haven't done any move. They haven't changed anything with fitting. They haven't done anything with Nick Khan, even though his name keeps popping up kind of perpendicular to some of these incidents. So it's hard to tell. I mean, it would, to me, I wouldn't be surprised if he stays or goes.
Now, the one that's actually picking up steam, I think the New York Times covered it, Newsweek covered it, is the Brock Lesnar, because he was the biggest name that most mainstream people would know about, because obviously he was the UFC heavyweight champion, WWE heavyweight champion. He's one of the biggest stars in WWE history. He has been named. Now, I did read it, and before he wasn't, they just had a former MMA fighter that's now working there, but now they just said his name altogether. That it was kind of another similar situation where, not a similar, but they're saying that Vince kind of offered her up as part of his contract. Do we have anything that kind of nails him down that says that he accepted that offer and kind of followed through with Vince's offer there, and kind of with other than just the text messages?
Just the text messages.
Okay.
That's what there's more of them in the complaint. I think there's one message that he requests her to do something in a video or a photo. I don't want to get into the details of it. It doesn't look good for Brock. I'll just say this: I'll be very surprised if Brock Lesnar's back in WWE. I just don't think that's going to happen. If you get the meat and potato with some of the stuff that happened, there's probably more deniability for him before. I think with the amended complaint and some of the additional details, it's not quite as deniable. I don't think he ever interacted with Grant on a personal basis, but I think there was enough things that happened there that they could probably, I don't see why they would want him back.
Yeah.
But he's a draw. Who knows? It's the wrestling business, but at the same time, I don't see why he'd want the headache.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if they did bring him back, they would, their argument would be, well, we don't have any evidence that he ever acted on any of these things. And
I mean, it doesn't look like he ever even met with Grant.
Well, I think that if they have that evidence, and they're trying to nail this whole thing down, specifically the company and Vince, or if they're trying to get to the settlement, which I think we all know this is where this is going. It's going to be a settlement, right? And there's probably going to be 2 different settlements, one for WWE, one for Vince. I'm pretty sure that's where this is going. If they want to up the ante of that settlement, then they need to come with that hard evidence that Brock did follow through with those actions. And then that would make the case even more rock solid, because then that's where the trafficking then comes into play. Like, hey, we have evidence that this person was being trafficked in a contract negotiation. Right. And so, and if they don't, I think they still have a ton of evidence that, and TKO is going to want the story to go away, and Vince is going to want the story to go away. I think eventually they're going to have to come to the table, and they'll probably end up settling this deal.
I mean, it's going to end in some kind of civil court proceeding. and that usually involves money. Like, what's your injury? And then it becomes, okay, can the court rectify that injury? And what happens to get there? Does it become a settlement? Does it become a trial? I mean, Grant's team is pretty dedicated to pushing all this all the way to trial.
And she's got a really good lawyer, by the way. She is.
Her team is very good. They have a multinational firm out of Connecticut. It's also helping them. There's also Eric Holland's firm. Ann Callis has kind of been the mouthpiece as far as her attorneys go. But there's also Eric Holland, who's known as one of the rainmakers. He's somebody who has massive history with settling huge class action suits and taking on the big guy. And it's a very formidable team she has. They also have SKD Knickerbocker. They're helping work with their media. That's ran by people who were working with the Biden. He worked with the Obama administration and Biden when he was vice president. They have a very formidable team. I think whatever is going to happen with this, I still think we're a little bit away from how it's going to play out. I mean, right now, the next move will be for the judge to approve the amended complaint. After that, you'll have the other parties, the defendants, that would be WWE, John Laurinaitis, and Vince. They would file their arbitration motions again because they don't want this in court. They want this to be held before a contract arbitrator, which was, according to her NDA, supposedly is what she's bound to do. But I think there's 0% chance of that happening because federal law is the last few years basically prohibits it. It'd be very strange for a judge to allow them to go to the arbitration when when taking sexist harassment cases to arbitration is pretty much outlawed now. That would be very unusual. So there's still some steps they got to go toward before they, figure out where this is going. I think, and I always think there's always a chance that you're going to see other women come forward. When I interviewed Ann Callis back in November, they were vetting women to talk and potentially join the suit. So maybe that happens at some point. I don't know. Maybe
especially if the judge throws out the NDA because it was signed under coercion, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and this is another thing. It was I don't know if this was in the first complaint or not. Maybe Bixen Span's in the chat and he can remember this, but they did mention that they did say that Vince violated the NDA originally because he let knowledge of Grant and the NDA out in the open through a media blogger.
His dumb team released it to Brad Shitbird, and then he put it out there. Dumb shitbird. Sorry.
Yeah, they don't mention him by name in the complaint, but it's in there that's how it got out.
Yeah.
And I mean, McMahon's also got a history of not paying his NDAs. And he's also got a history of not having them notarized. So there's a whole lot of potential.
I had not heard that one before.
Me neither.
Oh, so yeah. From what I was told, he used to keep a stack of them that McDivitt had filled out, and he would have them in his office and just have people sign them and fill them out, like just hand them out.
Oh my gosh.
Candy. Yeah, that was one story I've been told. Apparently, yeah, that's how many NDAs are floating around.
I got a good question, BJ.
Sure.
So you said it's going to be a while before this whole thing gets resolved. We're in this for the long haul. If you were, say, a media member and you were at a press conference and Triple H was speaking at that press conference, and he is now named in the lawsuit as having an adjacent wall to one of the defendants, do you think it would be prudent now that he's been named to actually ask the question of what he knows about the lawsuit, or would you not ask it because he's going to give you a non-answer? What are your thoughts, BJ?
I'd say, what's up, legend?
Yeah.
So about this whole sex trafficking thing in the office, it's ridiculous not to ask. It is. It's stupid. If you're at that press conference, I don't give a shit who you are. I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care if you're there and you have a chance to ask a question of this guy the day after an amended complaint comes out where he's on an office wall next door to a woman who's allegedly being sex trafficked by his father-in-law and sexually assaulted by his coworker. you ask the damn question. It isn't hard. You ask the question. You're not asking people to do surgery here. You're not asking people to, do CPR. Yeah, it's uncomfortable asking tough questions. Guess what? A lot of people do much more uncomfortable stuff. They join the military. They fight for their country. They save a lot. I mean, I've asked a lot more uncomfortable stuff of people than this. I mean, it's just part of being in media. And you can't use this content creator crap to say that, this isn't my job to do. This is what I'm supposed to do. Bullshit. You do, when you're in there, this is your job. And if you're not doing it, then you're a failure. And you go home, look at yourself in the face and call yourself a failure, because that's what you are.
We need to stop calling these things press conferences or pressers or anything, because they're not. It's just part of the
kiss
show.
Ass contest.
It is. And they're just playing roles and barking like dogs because they want Triple H's approval. And we got to stop acting like these people, one, want the truth, two, care about the truth, three, are even concerned about it.
Most of those people in them scrums would bend over backward. If they thought they could help bury the story, they would do it.
For sure.
If they thought they could bury anything bad about WWE, they would do it.
For sure.
You know what? There's probably someone who would do the same for AEW. They would do the same for Tony Khan. They would do the same for whoever. And it's because they're, and it's, I don't understand it. I just don't. I mean, people will cover the NFL. People will cover the NBA. People will cover college football. There's some wackos and fans that do stuff, but no one has this mentality doing it. This is this pro wrestling thing. And it's time for people to grow up.
We talked about this before you popped on. It's this idea that pro wrestling is something that they liked when they were kids. Yeah. So they need to protect it, much like you protected your childhood, right? So you need to keep it away from the harsh realities.
You protect it by reporting on the bad
I agree with you.
And getting the bad people out. That's how you protect it.
But that's what these people think they're doing. They think that they're keeping the sanctity of pro wrestling by keeping things quiet. When in reality,
they're making it more dangerous.
For sure.
Yeah. Every one of those content creators that goes to one of these press conferences and sits on their questions and doesn't ask about this is making it dangerous for every single woman in the professional wrestling industry. That's a fact.
Here's a fact,
and it's on them. I don't care if it's female content creators or male or whatever. If you're sitting on your questions and you're not asking about this, if you're not doing your job, you're making it dangerous for every young woman who gets into this industry. Every single one of them, and it's on you.
I agree with you, BJ. The problem is these people don't care.
No.
Well, we're going to make them care.
That's why we have you on, and we want to talk to you every time.
I mean, I can't, I can't control what other people do, and you guys can't. We know this, but the thing is talking about it, doing the news. That's how you get it done. And these people at some point are going to have to explain to somebody why they did the things the way they did. I've seen it happen way too far down the line. I've seen it happen way too much. I mean, and this is an industry that just, it needs some sunshine, and it's time to open the windows. And it's gotten a lot better. I think what's happening with Vince right now, I think it's a sign it's gotten better. I think the fact that the Wall Street Journal was covering this, I think the fact that you're seeing this become a big story nationally, I think it's showing that there's some sunshine being let in, but there's a long way to go. And I think the biggest inhibitor to that right now is probably wrestling fandom and social media itself. And I think a lot of that's weaponized by these, by companies, and people have interest in making sure nothing changes.
Yeah, they go to these things and they just want to be a part of the show. They want Paul's approval, and they don't want to ruin the vibes. And then they also feel like if they ask a tough question, they're going to catch a lot of heat online. But what you do, guys, and I've caught heat online. BJ's caught heat online. I'm sure JD has too. You mute the notifications because those are not real people, right? No. Like and somebody that I know actually was like, Mike, be honest. If you were at that press conference, would you ask a real question?
Oh, Mike
would you have the balls to ask a real question?
100%.
And I was just like, brother, it's like I have been in the back of a Humvee in Kabul, Afghanistan, with a fully loaded M16 on burst, ready to die. I am not afraid of Triple H. and I'm not a tough guy fighter. If I have to get into a fight with somebody, I'm just gonna call JD to go beat him up for me. But I am not afraid to go ask somebody a question, and I'm not afraid to ruin somebody's day asking tough
I have
questions.
JD's number. I may need it sometime.
I'll DM you after the show.
No,
This is why
I love what you just said. By the way, that's fantastic.
That's 100%. That's a straight shoot, as they would say.
Yeah.
Like Mike's a damn war hero. This is the thing.
I only pull that out when my family won't do something for me. It's like, guys, I'm a war hero. Like you're not going to get me in the football pool late. Come on.
Like this is the truth. This is why. And again, our platform is pretty small, but I'm very happy with what we have.
Yeah.
Guys like us don't get invited to those kind of things. We just don't.
Well,
that's why.
Well, and it would be really expensive for them to send me from Hawaii. That not only would it be for flights, it just costs a lot of money to get me out of my house unless I'm on military orders. So
I will tell you this: you will. I think you guys are. I think your guys' growth in your size shows how intelligent and good of a show you have. I think also it shows that there's a lot of places that know that you're not going to be. You can't BS you guys. Okay. And this is something I have to tell people a lot is that you will see certain shows, you will see certain things pass you by, or they will seem to grow, but you're also not doing what they're doing to grow, which is compromise yourself.
Yeah.
And you guys ask these questions, you'll ask tough stuff. You will do even if it's just more along the wrestling lines, it's like, you'll do a show ripping Wrestling Observer voters for 20 years of keeping Sting out of the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
That was the first thing we did. It was a blast, but it's like most people wouldn't do that, and it's like, okay, well, I would rather, it's like I could probably have 100,000 Twitter followers if I played the game, or I wanted to be Ariel Helwani. I don't want to do that. I want to be me. And if that means, having 2,500 Twitter followers and, then I don't care, because what I want to do is just write. I want to write. I want to report, and I'm doing that. And ultimately, it's important. And what I think that you guys like to do. And you like to hit. This is fun most of the time, but you obviously tackle big issues. And that's the thing. It's like with anything, like it's sports related. It's fun, but you got to also make sure to tackle the serious stuff.
Yeah.
And you guys are doing your job, and the vast majority are not. And I think that obviously there's some people that are doing a very good job at it. I think Garrett Gonzalez and Dave and Brian Alvarez and all those guys do a great job. I think that there's a lot of people do good work. But Sam and Mel with Power Bombshells have been fantastic on this.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for shouting out Sam, because she's been really getting into the weeds on this stuff. And
Sam's amazing.
Sam, if you think we're having a hard time having these conversations, imagine what those two girls are going through having these conversations. It's
I know. They've lived a lot of this stuff, or they have friends in the industry who have, and they give such a point of view that it's just not just from what us dumb guys see, but just from what women's point of view. And they're also a highly educated one, where Mel can take you back to Anita Hill, where she's talking about why women react to the sexual harassment claims the way they do in public. It's such an intelligent and important point of view.
Yeah.
And it's like maybe not all of us can bring that, but we can all bring something to the table. And that's like, push these stories and, talk about them and demand change. And that's how things get done.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned Sam and Mel. They're good friends of ours, and I'm happy they're fighting the good fight and are willing to stand out and say we're not. I'm proud of our friends, because none of our friends ever want to be part of the show and are happier to point out when things are wrong. And I think that's what I think why Mike and I really like being on Voices, and we come from Fight Game, and Garrett supported us there too when we were there first, because Mike is much better building this stuff than I am. But and I joke with Mike all the time about the engagement farming and stuff like that. He's good at that. But there's no compromising of morals. There's no hey, if we talk about this, or if we have this attitude, we'll get this. Like I've heard Bix is in the chat tonight, and I've heard him and Chris Zellner talk a million times. about John Arezzi and
Between the sheets,
Vince Russo. Yeah, I've heard him talk about Arezzi and Vince Russo and how Arezzi went hard back in the Ring Boy scandal, and Vince Russo tried to like soften it, like, hey, if we play the game, then we can get this, we can get that. And Arezzi didn't sell it who he was, and Vince Russo became a virus upon professional wrestling that we've all suffered for the last 25 years. So
one of the
Arezzi
worst people
deserves a lot
ever to
of
step
credit.
foot in wrestling.
I mean, like, so who would you rather be? You know,
Yeah.
and I don't know. Like, I jokingly call myself the worst podcaster in pro wrestling. Because it's kind of not a joke, but I mean, like, I would rather be who we are than get a cheese board and have Triple H shake my hand.
It ain't worth a cheese board in a mail out stamped Christmas card. That's what it comes down to.
I got celiac disease. I can't eat those.
I'd rather these guys be scared of me, and right now they're scared of me.
They're scared of you. You don't even get mentioned. Like Dave's an easy target. They're afraid to mention you, and they know you're the guy.
I mean, most of that's because I'm kind of low on the profile, but it's also I come from the real news world.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think people want to tackle that. That's fine. I'll report my stuff and I'll do it. And I'm going to report it just like I would if I was reporting for any news station or newspaper I work for. And I think as long as there's people like us and Bix is out there digging and Arezzi was doing like the stuff he's doing and just that's what it takes. It just takes. I mean, it's just. I was talking to Spun, but he was talking about just the media changes that's happened since the administration's come in. But
yeah, Bix says Russo's parodying McMahon. You don't know how fun doing a wrestling radio show can be. Yeah,
that's the thing, and that's right there. That's where we are. Right.
This is how I look at things, and I don't want to start to interrupt that, but George Orwell was the greatest journalist of the 20th century. He died of a disease of poverty. He didn't seem to change much, yet he got the three biggest issues of the 20th century correct, which was communism, fascism, and imperialism. He did that while working in a small house. He did that while volunteering for the Spanish Civil War, and he changed all the history. If he can do that, working in a little flat in London and in Paris, and put the entire Iron Curtain on edge, then I think us armed with our phones and our social media platforms, I think we can do even better. And I think we can at least do our best to like clean up the pro wrestling industry. And I think it's on us and the content creators and everybody to at least do their best to do that. And that's how I see things.
Well, I think that's a great way to end this, BJ. You really sent us home on a good note. I hope some of the content creators watched this and kind of took note and saw how passionate the BJ is about doing the job of a journalist, because that's what it is. It's a job, which means you have to go to work. And part of that work is asking tough questions and doing the hard things, even when it's not easy to do, right? Doing the right thing when it's the hardest thing in the world to do. That's called having integrity, and that's called doing a good job. That's how you become great in this life. And BJ is one of those guys that is doing the hard work.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Thanks. And if you're out there and you want to do journalism, or you want to ask questions, or you don't know how to approach, or you don't even know how to ask, or just anything, just please message me. I mean, I'll help anybody out. I will tell you this. I have had a ton of younger wrestling journalists reach out to me.
That's awesome.
And I know a lot of them have been doing some very good stuff. I mean, I had one of them get back to me, said, hey, he even found out The Athletic was telling me, he said, yeah, the Lee, they never got WWE never sent a response to The Athletic about the Lee Fitting article. Of course. I was like, holy crap, you got that? That's amazing. So there is good people out there doing good stuff, and they're going to be popping up. And I'm hoping that, we can keep driving this thing forward. And, guys, like you and Sam and Mel and, people that are doing that kind of stuff, it's important, and we're doing it, and we're going to get it done. And, hopefully, maybe it might make a case this story, but the next story it will.
Yeah. All right, guys, that is going to do it for us this week on the Mike and JD Show. I thank you for being here, and thank you for joining us on my new paid Engagement Farm Twitter account on X. Thanks for that. Join us. Head over to patreon.com/the Mike and JD Show to become a premium subscriber today. And then if you're watching this on YouTube, regardless of the YouTube channel, please like, comment, and subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. And then follow BJ at BJ Bethel Tweets.
That's it.
That's it. BJ Bethel Tweets. Follow him on X, and then he will give you all of the information that you're looking for. But that's going to do it for us this week. And until next time, mahalo.
Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. Mate, no rain from the track when we unite and spit. This is an A game, better bring your A game. Competition starting to get thick, it's the click, so I hope you watch your A game. Mate, no rain from
Hey kids, do you like wrestling? Well, we like wrestling too. We are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Myself and Chris Novembrino kind of doing a lazy river of wrestling criticism, going through the news and whatever happened in stateside television wrestling. And also, you know what? Sometimes we just like to watch old stuff and talk about that too. Love for you to give us a listen. If you haven't already, we are Shake Them Ropes here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network.